I want to talk about ethics, and I'm going to call them personal ethics. And the reason they're personal is what I'm going for here. My premise is that our ethics are personal. In other words, they're specific to us. Okay. And not only that, they're specific to how we are right now. My ethics are different now than they were 20 years ago or even 5 years ago. My ethics are different. And so much so that we used to call it, when I worked with my teacher, he called it ethical change. So when you went through a big life transformation and your consciousness shifted, usually when your consciousness shifts, your world gets bigger, right? You see more of life. And so when you start seeing more of life, the way you see life changes, and therefore your values and your ethics inevitably change. And so that's what the first premise I want to start with is personal ethics and personal to how I am now. So my ethics, and they may be, even if we're going through change, like I happen to be, they may be transforming, kind of in front of my eyes here. So anyway, that's one thing I want to say. And, the reason this becomes, the way this integrates is, the first thing is to expect another person to have the same ethics as you do is kind of unrealistic, or you could even say folly, if you will, And so that's one thing. Our culture kind of, or say our Judeo-Christian culture kind of, has this right and wrong thing. And that's one of the things that's really going on is we have different people that think right and wrong. They're weighing in differently about what's right and wrong. Why? Because they have different ethics. Why? Because they live in different worlds. They have different levels of consciousness, and they see the world differently. And so that's the one thing that causes us conflict. Okay, both of this blog, really, the intention is to reduce conflict in your life. So one way to reduce conflict around ethics is to realize that your ethics are going to be different than other people's ethics. Now, some people, that's going to be a more vast difference, a larger difference. Other people, it's going to be a subtler, smaller difference. And then maybe that makes sense to hang out with those people more because you see the world similarly, and it just makes sense. Although I do like diversity. I like hanging out with people with a wide range of ethics myself, but that's my choice. The other way this shows up is with yourself. And what it means is like, it's really helpful, okay, and beneficial, I guess would be the word I'm looking for, to understand what your ethics are, okay, and what they are now. They may, to update them and to ask yourself some important self-inquiry questions like, what is important to me? What do I value? What am I passionate about? What do I want, how do I see the world, and what do I want to change in the world, and what do I like this? And, it's really good to do that from time to time. That's one of the things we do when we do retreats, and workshops, is we help people kind of update their ethics and the way they see the world. And the reason that that's helpful and how that reduces conflict is that then you get the opportunity to align your life with that. Okay, once you understand what your ethics are, then you can start making choices about your life and aligning your life and acting in ways that are in alignment with your current ethics. Because when we act in a way that's contrary or different than our ethics, it causes us conflict. And that's my truth anyway. But check it out. I mean, don't believe me. It's like, if I believe one thing and I act in another way, I mean, I can kind of fake it a little, but there's something that just doesn't feel right to me, and it causes this internal conflict. And the way I can reduce that is by saying, hold on here, I believe this to be right, so maybe I ought to show up or speak out or act in a different way. I ought to act more in alignment with my ethics. Not because it's morally correct, just because it's going to reduce you. You're going to be much more joyful and happy, you're going to have less conflict. You're going to feel better about yourself. If you're showing up in a way that is in alignment with your ethics, you're going to feel much better about yourself and what you're doing in the world. And you're going to have more self-worth, you're going to self-esteem, whatever you want to call it. And less stress, less guilt and shame, right? And that's one of the reasons a lot of people are working on guilt and shame. And it's really good to do the trauma work and, see where the guilt and shame came from. That's really amazing work that I encourage people to do. But the other thing is once we do that, it's good to, as we move forward, to act in a way that doesn't create more guilt and shame. And how do we do that? By acting in alignment with our ethics. So anyway, that is my video for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an awesome week. And my invitation is, as the week goes on, just notice your ethics a little bit. Like what do you value? And what are you passionate about? And is it the same as it was before? Or maybe you're noticing some new ethics. Maybe your beliefs and your truths are changing, and then you can have the opportunity to align your life with that. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in a week.